guards and Arts are working out. There's some background noise.
Yeah, got some weights banging around there. Yeah.
I also had an audio sync issue at the last episode. I don't know
Really?
why. Yeah, when I was looking at it,
Oh, really?
I must have did it off or something. I don't know.
Oh.
But soon's guards is gonna be doing it soon, aren't you, guards?
He's gonna do the.
He's gonna
editing?
like start with some of it. I mean, I still got to do the.
This thing can't go to pots, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say I still have to do the initial edit
Okay.
because we both need my protection.
Yeah. Yeah.
But after that, then it's fine. So we'll see though.
Sick.
So I want to talk about a few things today. It's getting rainy, eh? It's been rainy. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the PowerTech online membership program. If you've been listening to Andy and I wondering, hey, how are they able to get all this podcast content out there? Well, that's because of our members. For just $9.99 a month, you can get access to our online video library, including hundreds of videos of Coach Andy teaching, and have the option for consultation calls with Andy or myself to go over anything you need. We can cover training, nutrition, coaching, parenting, agents, the junior college hockey path, whatever's of interest to you. You'll also be able to participate in our popular Ask Me Anything episodes, have access to special discount codes, and be given priority for any PowerTech in-person camps or events. If you like what we're doing here and you want to support us, this is the best way to do it. Visit powertechhockey.ca/memberships or find the link in the description of this video to learn more. I got one of our clients, now friend, sent an article about kind of like specialization, like early specialization stuff we talk about, which is a common topic for us. But I want to talk about more the year-round training thing because that's a thing right now that everyone's kind of going through. So we've had a couple episodes where we talked about camps. We've talked about figuring out off-season programming, how much should you be on the ice, yada, yada. And people are having a real hard time staying off the ice. And they're telling me they're having a hard time staying off the ice. So
I want to hear a conversation I had Friday night.
Yeah, go.
I was talking to a friend of mine who scouts in the NHL. I was with my kid and said, what are you up to now? So back in shape, not touching, Charlie said, I'm not touching the ice too much, just a little bit. Help him out with my dad a little bit, getting a few reps and stuff in. And he goes, but I really started up until later. And he just said, I really, really, really wish people would just take the summer off. Yeah. NHL scout. He goes, until you're like OHL, college, and pro, he goes, it's just why? Yeah. So that's just straight from the horse's mouth, as they say.
Yeah, the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
And until, I think players that are a little bit older or people that have been through it would know a little bit more. Maybe if you're a parent and you're not as experienced or you haven't done it, then you don't know how much of a beatdown it actually is, man. And so maybe it's harder when you don't have the perspective, and that might be one example of where it helps if you've been through it. But you're just so beat down, man. Even like, maybe not when you're 12 necessarily, but
well, it hasn't caught up yet, right?
Yeah, but when you get a little bit older, so and it's just good habits, and it even matters less when you're younger, you know. So anyways, I wanted to talk about that a little bit more and just give people a little more ammo if they're unsure or whatever, because Jesus, hey?
Yeah, she's raining.
Just because people talk to me about staying off the ice, but then they'll give me but you know, it's hard because all the friends are doing it, or I'm being told to do it, or I keep being asked, or I keep having to say no. Like I keep having to turn down opportunities, and then I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Or you get the FOMO where like the friends are doing it and they don't want to miss out on something. So I want to read this article a little bit, and then you can just interject thoughts, and then we can talk about it a little bit after. Okay. So this is titled "Early Specialization and Year-Round Training is Destroying Youth Hockey."
Any particular human wrote that?
Josh Levine.
Okay.
And it's just on like a blog.
Okay.
So it's not like a scientific paper or anything, but it's just like
a thought.
Good perspective. So
sure.
Okay, here we go. So this is to the article now. Today's hockey culture is damaging youth hockey players' future and putting the integrity of our game at risk. Year-round training schedules for the youngest hockey players and the pressure to always do more is not only harming young skaters emotionally and academically, but also athletically. Yet we're constantly told the opposite. Many have argued that early specialization in hockey is required to become elite, and they couldn't be more wrong. Early specialization is when a player, prior to puberty, decides to completely focus his or her efforts on one sport and engages in high amounts of repetitions, monotonous, deliberate training regimens. designed to maximize skill development. The problem with early specialization in hockey and in many team sports, however, is that it is harmful at young ages, causing a host of problems and hindering athletic development. Anything yet?
For me, the big thing is for people that say you got to do it because that's what the rest of the world is doing.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Let's say that might be true, but you don't need to do it at 8.
When do you need
8,
to do
9,
it?
10. I'm not saying you have to do it, but I'm saying like for the people that would argue that if you look around, the best players do it. I think that first of all, that's.
Do you mean do it as like all year round training? Do it?
Yeah, on the ice all the time.
Yeah.
Look at Connor or look at McDavid, but those are those guys anyways.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say about that? But the point is, it's not necessary at 6, 7, 11, 12, 13 even. Once you start getting to, I'm not even saying 14 is the right age, but when you get in your teenage years and you can focus on, you've hit puberty, you can focus on, okay, I want to train this, not just generic stuff like, oh, I need to work on skating, I need to work on shooting and specific things, then it makes more sense because I think your brain is like, makes sense of it. Just doing like a whole bunch of drills doesn't really make a lot of sense, except you're getting a lot of touches.
Yeah, and you know what else is funny too is like even people in hockey, this is why it's important that I want to make sure I word this the right way. If you are trying to maximize your development, whatever that means, so pick your off ice, on ice, whatever, you want to make sure if when you're getting opinions, you ask people who know what development means at whatever age. Okay, so the reason I'm saying this is I was talking to a coach the other night, and we were talking about how guys are in the gym, they're working out right now, they're not really skating, whatever. And the comment he just like a off the cuff comment he made was just, how many goals did they score from the gym? And I'm like repulsed by the comment, and this is was about older players, just because there's a time for these guys to not be on the ice, and this was a coach, high level coach, not identifying that. And you get different perspectives and people have different opinions and whatever, but you need to understand that not everyone you talk to understands what type of growth happens at which point, and that could be your coach. And there's no question. Like, you could look at the NHL, like some of these coaches, they don't look like they're exactly a beacon of fitness, and some of them just don't value it, or they don't know about it, or they're not in that world, and you can't expect everybody to know about that kind of stuff. But you also need to be aware of that fact, is you might talk to one coach who just doesn't really know anything about off-ice development or how the body grows or any of this kind of stuff, So it's important to keep that in consideration when you're getting opinions. This is why we always talk about evaluating the source kind of thing, right? Because this was a high-level coach. I was surprised to hear even just an off-the-cuff comment like that. I was just surprised to hear the comment from the coach, So,
well, it sounds great. Sounds funny.
Yeah, right. Okay, so back to the article here. The first major problem with specializing in hockey too early is that practice makes permanent, not perfect. For example, might skaters have short attention spans, and this limits the amount of time they can focus and perform repetitions correctly. Year-round training schedules also cause fatigue, as young athletes aren't given proper rest and recovery periods. As a result of the constant practice, many young players develop short, choppy, and more upright strides. Some parents have even asked me how their player could possibly seem to be getting worse at skating when they're doing skating clinics, AAA programs, and off-ice training regimens all at the same time. Finally, despite all the hysteria and pressure to start early, specializing early and training as much as is physically possible, the reality is that young athletes prior to puberty cannot achieve significant muscular gains. I'm going to highlight that one for me, because that's something that I'm constantly having to say, because I get people whose kids are pre-pubescent asking about off-season programs, and I constantly have to tell them, not really worth it. So I was having a conversation the other day with a parent about what kind of off-season training should they be doing. They're like, yeah, I got them in a couple different sports, whatever, but I've been offered to do this however long it was, camp where they're on the ice and off the ice and whatever, and the kid is, I think, 11 or 12. And I just said to him, like, it's just not worth the money, like, at the end of the day, because the kid's not getting a benefit in terms of the off-ice training, whatever that means, and who knows what that means, but it's not like play-based athleticism. They're selling it as a structured, like, off-ice program to some degree. And
how long is it?
I think it was I don't remember the exact timeline. It might have been like 6 weeks, 8
Okay.
weeks.
I thought, I was curious if it was a week or two.
Yeah, it was like a Monday to Friday for 6 weeks on the ice, a bunch off the ice kind of thing, which is common. And a lot of them, it's like parents need to have their kids do something in the summer because they're working or whatever, which is one thing. But if we're talking about the training aspect of it, it's like an 11-year-old can't get the gains because they don't have the hormones. It just isn't there yet. That's what puberty does. That's what it's for, you know? So for a lot of these parents that have to make this decision, they might not know that information. So my advice was just far better to have them play other sports and be an athlete. And that's like step one, like you always talk about long-term athletic development plan. It's like step one, be an athlete, like learn how to move and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Got anything to add?
Well, there's a lot there. And like, I'm not going to agree necessarily with, there was a statement that he put in there that kids become worse skaters because of skating so much. I wouldn't.
Yeah, let me go back and make sure I got
Yeah,
that
just
statement
say
right.
that a little bit.
As a result of the constant practice, many young players develop short, choppy, and more upright strides. What does that mean?
I don't know if that's what I was saying. I don't know if
Yeah,
I would agree with because of the repetition or
yeah,
I think
get what
you
you're saying.
skate the way you skate and then you can work on some stuff to make it better. But I also would say that that goes with the territory of doing generic skating or generic drills and not having a focus and doing too much. You don't necessarily get better. Like the more is better argument, more ice is better, like quantity versus quality. I would agree that that could happen. But my I think maybe more important than physically things falling apart, I just don't see how well, no, I do see. I see on almost a daily basis younger kids that are on the ice so much that mentally they cannot get up for a practice or for games because it happens so often. So that's where I think the biggest gap would be. So and I guess that kind of makes sense is that if you can't put your mind into a task, then you're kind of going through the motions. The intensity and the focus can't be that that intense because you're doing it every day for a long period of time every day. So I think there's a combination there of yes, you're building habits without trying to, and they could be good or bad. And I think the second part of that is you're teaching your brain and you're teaching your body to do things at a certain pace. And if you're on the ice every single day, especially as a youth, there's no way you can appreciate what you have. You just get to go on the ice, right? My son and I were talking about that today about school, how we were talking about how it was hard for both of us to really care about school, like to really actually see the benefits of it. And, you know, we could argue it all day. We're kind of laughing. And I was saying like it was the same for me because I just didn't have a passion for it. We had to go. And until I got really interested in something, then I wouldn't put the effort in. And I feel that's the same as a hockey player. You know, you can't get upset as a coach or even a trainer like ourselves. Thanks, buddy. If a kid comes on the ice and the effort's not totally there, and the intensity is not always there if they're on the ice so much because it might not even be their choice totally. Right. So like what you're thinking, buddy. So what you're doing is you're playing pool with a rope, right? You're trying to push something that can't be pushed, right? So anyways, I think the mental side of it plays as equal amount of it plays an equal amount of the equation and maybe even possibly more.
Yeah, I'm hopefully he touches on that mental piece in here because I kind of want to like I said, pull it apart, dissect a little bit, see what he says. But just the one thing, kind of I guess in defense, is the way he was phrasing that one sentence that as a result of the constant practice, many young players develop short, choppy, more upright strides. That was kind of paired with him saying that might skaters have a short attention span, and they can't really focus on how to do stuff right. So if they're doing it wrong, then so I guess that would be like the most charitable interpretation.
Here's always my argument with this is we can take all kinds of different levels of this, right? It's like because now we're in 2024 ish, right? And no, but like hear me out, man, before you giggle. Hear me out. I remember when I first started training players in this area in the year 2000, 2001. And people were coming up to me and always like, what profile do you need, and rockers and all that stuff. And I didn't have a clue what that meant. I kind of did. But I said, I don't know. I had my skate sharpened and I skated. And parents would look at you like, how? Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what do you mean? Didn't you? Because when I was a kid, I don't like to go when I was a kid, but like the evolution of any player that was my age or older or roughly around that age, you got a pair of skates that were heavy leather. You put the boots on. There wasn't all these different things. They're basically all the same skates, zero support in them. And we went out and skated, right? Now,
And you're a great skater.
this is my point.
Yeah.
There wasn't, I'm a skater. I could skate, right? Shooting a puck, stick handling, like those things. How did I get to this?
Well, I was talking
I
about
forgot.
how the guy was saying because they can't pay attention well,
Yeah.
they get
Okay, so learning.
learning.
So I don't think you learn how to skate. Just, you know what I mean? So I'm saying we took the skates out of the box. We went to Mr. Bellin's house down the road. He put it through the skate sharpening. Whatever we had, we skated. No one sat there and said, okay, you got to do this. You got to push with your toe. It was go skate, go play, go shoot, go whatever. So I think everything has to be learned. So the attention span thing when they're young, I don't know if I'm arguing with this or not. I'm not trying to argue, but I'm just saying.
No, it's just different
the attention
perspectives on the
span,
same
yeah,
sentence.
to create bad habits. I don't understand that, is what I'm saying. Like, not everything has to be taught and reasoned, and you have to have the best equipment, the best everything. You could kind of learn how to play hockey.
I think this, because we go back to this a lot too, where it's like, we're overcomplicating, we're majoring in the minors, as they say. It's like we're overcomplicating something that's not that complicated. It's like go out and skate. It's like we got to teach the specific mechanics about everything, and every single thing has a teaching point, and there's the best way to do everything and all that. And I do agree that that's true, but then there's in practice, like what happens in practice. And I think it can be both things. Like I kind of think of it the same way I do as hockey IQ, where it's like some kids just get it, some kids just don't get it. The kids that don't get it can improve to a degree, but how much can they improve relative to the kid that just gets it? And I think that's similar with skating. It's like some kids just skate. Like I see it on the treadmill all the time. I'll have a 6-year-old jump on, and they can just skate beautifully. And then I'll have a 8-year-old that's been doing it for 2 years, and they just aren't a good skater, And so they can get better. And so I think that the teaching point part of it, there is something there. But I do agree generally with the point. It's like some people just have, it's funny. My parents used to describe me as a kid relative to my other siblings. They would say that basically what they were saying is I had this natural athleticism when I could first stand up. It's like as soon as I started standing up, they were like, you were just like on your toes all the time. Like you just had like a little knee bend, you had a little bounce. And like there's videos of me when like home movies when I was a kid of me just like bouncing around. Like I was always just like looking around, ready to pounce on something kind of thing. And my brother wasn't like that. And my sisters weren't like that. And I was just like that. And why was I like that? Nobody taught me. Like I didn't go get a lesson about it. No one taught me the athletic stance. I just knew how to do it. I just found it at some point when I was developing and I just got it, And I think that's there's a lot of that. And there's a lot of that people don't think about or account for. And they err on the side of we can just drill the shit out of it until they get it, and there's a limit to that is, I guess, I think kind of what you're saying to this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is like, not everything, not everything. Play the game. This is my biggest thing is play, practice, have fun. I'm not telling everybody this. I'm just saying, like, you don't have to take the youth hockey so serious. And I don't mean don't take it serious at all. Like enjoy it, make a whole bunch of mistakes and just learn. And then as you see an area here and there as a kid gets older that he might need to fix, find a place to fix them. But you certainly don't need a lesson for everything. And that's what I kind of see a lot is like everybody needs more ice, a whole bunch of drills. Pace is like average at best. Sometimes it's good, but like in general, pace is average. And there's so much teaching about everything all the time. And it's like sometimes you just got to play. And then at certain ages, though, you start saying, okay, like you identify, okay, maybe someone, you hear a coach or a few people tell you at 13, 14, is like, your skating would have to be, you're a good player. Skating has to get a little bit better. Okay, what does that mean? What is skating? Your stride sucks. Okay, that stride. Okay, so look at a place where you can work specifically on that, not just do generic things, right? But when you identify a couple of things, you can work on that specifically.
And that's normally what happens as they get a bit older too. It's like all these guys, my older guys now, it's like older and they're still kids, but they're just like, yeah, like I haven't. They were asking each other yesterday. They're just like, how long's it been since you've been on the ice? And they'll say to each other like seriously on the ice or just like on the ice, like training or do whatever. And then long time, like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever. And these are OHL players. You know what I mean? NCAA players that are saying this kind of stuff.
And that's not for everyone.
No, but point being, they're going to show up at training camp. Like one of them's an NHL pick that was talking. It's like he's going to show up at his training camp and he's going to be fine because this is what happens as they get a bit older, right? So back to the article here. I'm almost done it. One common argument for early specialization is that in sports like gymnastics and figure skating, athletes specialize early and are elite or well on their way to elite status at a young age. This is an utter fallacy. In team sports like hockey, peak performance isn't reached until post-puberty, whereas in gymnastics, peak performance is always reached prior to puberty. Hockey is a game with an infinite amount of possibilities, movements, and patterns. It requires an athleticism far different than gymnastics or figure skating. Foresight, creativity, patience, and quick decision-making are needed. Athletic skills can't be compartmentalized. Skating, shooting, reading, and reacting occur at the same split second. Contrast this with a gymnast routine where the exercises are planned and moves are routine. Hockey is the exact opposite. Only playing hockey at a young age versus participating in multiple sports limits the variety of motor skills a young player should learn. Like a child that learns 2 languages and can more easily pick up a third, a young athlete that plays multiple sports and learns multiple movements will be better able to pick up new skills. In addition, playing multiple team sports introduces an athlete to varied game situations and helps improve an athlete's ability to read and react to the rest of the players in the game. The most unfortunate consequences of early specialization include the epidemic of overuse injuries and the psychological burnout that many players experience. Today, overuse injuries in sports have hit a record high. Many doctors attribute this to the increasing intensity of organized youth sports. So the psychological burnout piece, that's kind of the thing that you're always talking about that you see on the ice.
I see it. Like, I just see that all the time.
Yeah. So these guys coming on and the common symptoms are just like not motivated, disinterested, lack of intensity. Or what I increasingly noticed is kids missing skates where it's like, I just need a break today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
Which
That's
is like,
very true.
which is so funny because it's like, so you've signed up for this whatever program and then it's like, okay, I'm doing this program, but I'm also doing this program and I'm also doing this program. So then like a few times, let's say every third week, I missed a day or two because I need a day off. It's like, well, how about you just not do one of those programs then? You know what I mean? Or be more intentional and more selective about what you're choosing to do. You know, I notice that a lot now too.
Yeah. But with a lot of roads to go down here, eh? No, really, like with those conversations. But like, I wanted to go back to what he said about if you use the argument of a gymnast, golf, I don't know if baseball is the same. Probably not, but tennis, those individual sports, people are absolutely right. To be the best golfer in the world, you have to be on the golf course and working the putts and working every aspect of it. And I think, in a sense, there are a lot of different things that play there, just kind of like hockey. You got I don't golf, so if I say the wrong thing, you've got your drives, you got your putts, you got your chips, you got the mental side. So maybe all the mechanics make a big difference, right? But go to gymnastics, he did say it there, but yeah, that's a whole different thing. Like, they do have to specialize early, and it has to be all in, because I think, based on what I see, if you're like, everything has to line up, and you can't be too heavy. You have to be tiny. You have to be super strong. You have to have the mechanics of, whatever gymnastic apparatus you're using. It has to be like perfect to be considered even any good. But you're topped out. If you're doing gymnastics at 19 or 20, it's probably, I don't know if this is the age, but like, it seems like the girls that are winning gymnastic routines in the Olympics are 14, 13, 15. So you're right.
I think. Well, I don't know.
Maybe
I don't,
it's 19.
I'd be speaking out of turn, but
It's
they're
not
young.
25.
Yeah, they're young.
It's not
they're young.
25.
Yeah.
Right, where you're starting to carry weight and all that kind of stuff. So like you're young, so you only do legit, if you're going to do something with this, you only have a couple of years to be perfect at it, to get on a thing. And then you're not doing it at 30 unless it's recreational, right? So that's your gap. So you might risk injuries, and you will, right? Because they're all banged up all the time. So but it's different in hockey. And like if you I know he laid it out kind of good there, and I don't know if it is or not, but if you do the same with hockey, it's just different because you're not peaking at 14. You're peaking more around 25, 26, 27.
Yeah. I think most of the read and react sports are like that.
Yeah.
Like where like they're saying where if you have a routine, even like figure skating, where it's like you're running the route over and over and over and over, and it's the same. Like no like major, particularly team sports are really like that. It's all read and react based stuff where like you need compilation of skills that you would also see in different sports, and maybe even better than in the sport you're in. Like there's just split second things that happen where you needed your knee to be able to turn one way instead of another way. And if you've never done those hard cuts on the turf, maybe your knee pops because it's not used to doing that in hockey or something. You know what I mean? So there's all these different elements that play into it from the hockey side of it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple more veins that was going, and I forget what they were now.
I went down the mental burnout thing. I was talking about kids that skip. They'll like miss trials and stuff. Got anything to add on that?
So what I was going to say to that is, really funny. I studied a lot of Charles Poliquin, and that's so Charles Poliquin was considered one of the best. A lot of it was self-proclaimed, but a lot of people would agree that he was maybe the best strength trainer in the world, at least for a period of time. We had countless numbers of Olympic gold medalists and pro athletes from every different field. Really, really bright guy. You know who he is. And so he was the one that when Gary Roberts, we referenced Gary Roberts a couple of times.
Yeah. It was when he wanted to come back.
Yeah, when he was making a comeback. It wasn't that he was making a comeback, I don't think. I think it was more along the lines he was rehabbing, and he got to Gary Roberts or to Charles Poliquin, and Poliquin said, "I think it's going to take this much time. I can get you to play." And he learned the fitness, and now he's taken that plus others, and the nutrition and all that stuff, and made it his own, which is awesome. But my point was, and if you read a lot of I'm not talking for a recreational person, but it's still like a bodybuilder, not a bodybuilder, but someone that wants to get in shape. You don't need as much time as you think. You agree, right? So when you're out there as a player, and I'm guilty of that even today. At 55 years old, when I choose to say, okay, I got to dial it in a little bit. I got over a shoulder injury. Blah blah blah. I'm going to dial it in. I always go to the more is better for working out. But there's only if you look at working out, there's only so much you can burn working out, right? So let's say you have a really good workout where it's a 400 to 600. That's a good workout, 400 to 600 calorie burn with weightlifting and stuff. Like your body is taxed. Depending on the workout, you can do more or less, but your body is taxed. So doing more will give you another 100 calories or 50 calories, 200 calories here and there to burn. Where if you just dial down your eating, you wouldn't have to work out as hard, and the calorie deficits and all that stuff. It's easier to do it that way. Anyways, my point is that what we tend to do is look at what can I do more of. And you know what? I look at my son sometimes and I go, I think not. I don't say it to him, but I do give him the odd thing. Like, do you think there's something else you could do today? And then I have to sit back and go, but you did it today. Do you know what I mean? So when you're doing the workouts, if you're or the ice or whatever, and you're doing, and what parents expect is like sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. It's like it's too much. So that's why you're going to miss this. You're going to miss it. You're freaking gassed, and you cannot perform properly. If you give me in the gym, or I'm not saying me, I'm just saying in general, I'd rather see someone give me 1 hour of focused, hard, I don't even want to say hard's not the right word, but the right proper intensity for
Attentive,
every
intentional.
intentional, like for the 1 hour, I'll take that because you're going to get quality work. Yeah. And I'll say the same thing on the ice. Give me 1 hour. I don't need 2.5. I don't need 10 times a week. I just need a consistent 1 hour, 4 or 5 times a week of working out or on the ice, and then leave it and go live your life. Go play some catch. Go play pickleball. Go play some golf or whatever it is that you want to do. You're going to get better results because your brain can just turn it off. And that's the one thing. Sorry, I'm going here, but that's the one thing that I gave credit to my son for, is because I'm looking at his life as in a different vantage point, and I've seen mistakes that I've made and other people made, and I'm like, dial in, dial in, dial in. But the beautiful thing with him, and hopefully for a lot of guys, is when he knows that there's a time to shut it off. Like at the end of the season, it's like, don't talk to me about hockey. Don't talk to me about exercise, eating, anything like that. I know I got to go for a walk and move a little bit for a week or two, but I'm off right now. My brain is off, and it's very, very healthy. My brain is off. My body's not thinking hockey. I'm recovering. And then I have a date where I start again, and then I'm back on. And when I'm on, I'm on. And then within that on time, you work your ass off for, the time that you're supposed to work. You take your water intake and your proper nutrition for the most part, most of the time, and you're dialed in, but it's not like so intense. You just eat right and all that stuff. And then you're allowed to have fun, but you're still like baby dialed in. But now you have these mini breaks within the day where it's like, it doesn't have to be, because now your brain can relax a little bit.
And in a sense, that's funny because in a sense, that's also being dialed in. Like I was talking to my Christine about it the other night of like having the discipline to stop working.
Yeah, you were telling me that the other day.
Like go to bed, dude. Like stop. Where you could think, well, I'm hustling. Like I got to get my work done. I could do more. It's like, yeah, but stopping is actually more. Like stopping is actually better because then you're better the next time, and then you're better the next time. And so even with these little spurts of I'm not dialed in is part of the planning.
100%.
Like an analogy I was just thinking of while you were talking was how most people have some kind of a inclination or they desire to like go on vacation at some point, or like some kind of break at some point,
different,
right? Where at some point during the year you feel like I just want to like a couple days, or I just want a week where I can whatever. Like this is why it's built into our society that you have to give people vacation time, or you have to give them whatever, because people want the reset. Like they want the break. They want something where it's like, I can leave and come back with a fresh perspective. So even for me, like as much as I was bitching about going on vacation when I went a few weeks ago, the way that I've said it to you is like, it's a pain in the ass to go. It's a pain in the ass when I come back, but when I'm there, it's awesome. And I'm grateful that I do that, because even just coming back from this one, it gave me this fresh look about that reset where it's like, okay, I'm stopping at this time so that I'm better the next day. And like that stuff is part of the planning, and this is for some reason when it comes to, athletics or sport performance, it kind of goes out the window with the way people talk about it sometimes, but it needs to be part of the plan. And that doesn't mean that you're lazy and always looking for breaks, because that's the flip side where it's like that can the rule. What do I say about workouts? It's like if you can miss a day if you never miss a day. That's kind of my thing in the gym, right? If you never miss, I don't care if you miss one. But if you're missing all the time, now it's bugging me. If you always need a break, now it's no good, right? So there's a balance there, obviously. But that's an important perspective to keep in mind, man. Like, because people generally with your job, you want a vacation, like you want a break, and there's a reason for it. It's like psychologically, you need to have some of that decompression time. I was listening to a little while back. Jeff Bezos was talking about like his just mindset stuff in general, whatever, on a podcast, and he was saying that he has periods where he just likes to have unstructured mind wandering time. So he's like, in the morning, I like going for walks and I just let my brain do whatever. He's like, I'm not trying to like meditate. I'm not trying to clear my head. I let it just
meditating
spin.
takes focus.
Right.
So just,
exactly.
Walk.
So he's like,
and
I just want to let it spin. He's like, just let it spin out and see where it goes. Let my brain get distracted. Let my brain do whatever it wants to do and just see where it ends up. And he's like, I found that to be super helpful with how it lets when I get back to the table and it's time to work, maybe I have a new idea, maybe I have a fresh perspective, maybe I have whatever. So all these little elements are part of it, and you can say that, oh, I'm taking this time to be distracted, or this is a cheat meal, or this is a whatever. It's like, no, it's actually just part of it. If it is part of it. If it's not, you're just being an ass and pretending like you have a plan when you don't. But assuming you have some kind of intentional plan, that all that can be built into the structure of it. You know what I mean? So I just got like 2 more things here. Where did I leave off? So this is back to the article again. Often young athletes are getting hurt before they have a chance to fully develop physically. Many others are becoming so burnt out that they quit altogether. However, the hidden cost of year-round hockey is the untold number of athletes still playing, but without a passion for the game. We don't have to accept this state of affairs. Although time is running out, we can still restore sanity and integrity to the game of hockey. This will require families to start resisting the enormous pressure to always do more. Community associations, coaches, collegiate and professional hockey players, and many others will need to step up in order to change this tide. It's time to save our game. So this guy, he's the founder of Fortis Academy, which I'm not sure what that is. And he went to Princeton, Josh Levine.
So he's not a dumbass.
Yeah, not a dummy. But so this was just a blog, like just his thoughts, I guess, on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts.
Scientific about it, but it's pretty in line generally with like kind of stuff we talk about, which I like. Because this is the time of year, like I said before, where people are feeling the pinch of like spring hockey tournament, doing the extra this, signing up for this camp. My coach is running this. Do I have to do this? And it's so funny because running the business, it's so funny that like we talk about all the time. Like June is normally like our month where we're like shut her down, but then everybody's asking for more things. So then we're caught in this position of like, okay, if they're gonna do it anyways, do we like, is it like, might as well make sure they're getting some quality stuff with us because we know we'll make it good? Or do we stick to our guns and say no, and then they're going off to who knows where, doing who knows what for how much money?
That's the business side, right? Of things, yeah.
So
I know
it's funny seeing that happen again. Like it happens every summer, but seeing it happen again this summer, and then trying to have the conversation of like, it's okay to not go on the ice, man. And there's a few kids that I have that they do it themselves. They say, I want to break, or like I want to take some time off or whatever. And I'm starting to lose my memories of what exactly I did through the off season. But I
know for a fact you were an off guy.
I was just going to say, because like I don't ever remember like having to pay for skates and having to do all this stuff.
You were an off guy.
Even when I was older, like even into junior and even into and beyond that, it's like we would have like team skates when I was playing junior that I would go to if I went to them. But
here's what I'm going back to, like what I said earlier about the best equipment, the rocker, all these things. Okay, so let's go back to that. Like if you look at, so I'm a 55-year-old man, so I played hockey as a youth in the 70s. Right?
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, by the way. That was like a century ago. In the 70s, and I played junior in the 80s. Okay, so 70s, 80s. And the training that we had was zero because the second ice was out in Northern Ontario, like as soon as the season was over, the ice was pulled to the end of August. Okay. So it was like that most places. So like, I know I played with Brendan Shanahan. He was from Mimico. That's under 17, right? When I played with him, but I played against him for years, and he played lacrosse. I don't know Gary Roberts or Joe Newendike, but they played lacrosse. A lot of the guys played baseball, lacrosse. Adam Oates, I was listening to something to him. He was a lacrosse guy, which is, to me, if you're going to take a sport and you want to do something that would resemble hockey, to me, that's the one. Because the contact, you learn how to keep your head up, or you don't. And it's similar to hockey, stops, starts, but you learn your D zone, you learn your offensive zone. Like, to me, that's the sport to play. Just to me, whatever. But okay, anyways, what my point is that, what did you say earlier about my skating in this podcast?
That you were just a good skater?
Yeah. No lessons, man.
Yeah, none. Yeah.
0 lessons. And we're not like, I'm old now, but like I'm a good skater, but like, and I wouldn't say I'm a good skater now, like fast and agile as much anymore, but I'm a good skater, better than most,
Yeah, that's for sure.
right?
Yeah.
There's 0 lessons.
Yeah.
There was at one point 6 years without touching the ice. Well, how? We didn't train? So that's my point, is like there is the there is truth to what we're saying. It's like it doesn't have to be training, learning the best of this. You if you don't use it, you'll lose it. That's not true, right? I played a whole bunch of other sports. I was interested in other things, and I was a decent skater, right? Whereas other guys weren't as great skaters, but they made up for it in different areas of their game. So it's just and like I don't like so going to the guy's end point. We got to fix this, whatever. It ain't gonna get fixed. Like I know that because I've been doing this. Unless this Princeton guy's smarter than me, probably. But it's not fixing it because people are people, right? Like people were asking to get in a program to maintain so they can go to camps, like junior camps here. So okay, so this is what it's going to be, and then they're like, well, yeah, but it's got to be harder. It's like no. But Charlie and I were talking about this the other day. Their morning skates are not bag skates, man. It's 3-4 drills, get the hell off because you're touching the puck. It doesn't have to be so intense all the time. You can't go from a game night or a training night to a small area games all day and then a scrimmage to a camp and do that every day. It's like you can't do it effectively every day. Anyways, I'm done with that.
No, it's exactly what I think we try to communicate. I hold out more hope than you because I think that now with how information travels, how fast people can hear things and whatever, like this podcast, like information gets out and it does change tides. Like it's funny how I'm not saying we've done this in the hockey world. I don't think that we're that big of a deal, but we talk about all the time how the tide is changing where the player that's the tough, the gritty, the grindy, this kind of guy, that it's going to start to swing back. And then we were saying that 3 years ago, and then now it's like you got Matt Rempe, you got Arbor Jacka, you got these guys that are coming in and doing this stuff where it's kind of falling in line with the stuff we've been saying. And that's because the people that make the decisions, now that information can travel fast, where it's like if you hear us say, hey, and for whatever it's worth that we're saying it, if you trust what we say about hockey and you say, hey, like if you got a little grittiness to you, you're not vanilla anymore, and some kid listens to that, like that actually makes an impact. So when we're talking about taking breaks and actually having an intentional structure off season, and you don't have to pay for everything, man. You don't have to do, like, it's getting through to some parents. Like I had a conversation the other day of like
it is
saying, it's like it's hard to resist, but it's nice when we come back to hear you guys talk and you're saying it again. It's like nice to hear. It's nice to have it back because I got 10 other people over here that are saying the opposite, and it's nice to have someone who that's what I think anyways, and it's like a reassurance kind of thing. So I'm saying that not to say we're amazing and we're the best ever and the most important, but it's just the point of it is that people have a place to go where they can get information that is actually helpful. So that's good. So I'm done with that. My last thing I wanted to finish up on is I was doing this. I probably should have started with this, but whatever. I was doing this Hockey Canada certification thing on the weekend. A couple interesting stats, just like in alignment with this that I wanted to finish off on. So, first thing was of NHL players that are playing actively in the NHL. The top 3 percentage demographics of people that are in the NHL are first round picks. So if drafted first round, that's the biggest percentage of NHL players. Second round picks is the next biggest. And then the third one is not third rounders, it's undrafted players. So you got your first round picks, biggest percentage, second round picks, second biggest percentage, and then your third biggest percentage is undrafted players. And so that's 157 players in the NHL this past season were not drafted. And that's makes up the third biggest demographic, which I thought was super interesting.
Yeah, I see it 1,000%. I my son's in that realm right now of the draft and all that stuff. And I really do see it. What I think the draft is great for is, like, of course you can pick out maybe your top we were just looking at a draft the other day and we're going, holy shit, like wrong. They're wrong. Not they're wrong, but you can't. There's certain guys you're going to say Connor Bedard, like it's top 10 guys. There's a really, at the time they for sure are, but then after that, how do you take this guy is rated 25 and this guy's 99 and they're like, how? Like how? So that's why there's so many mistakes, and they're not really mistakes. And this is what we're saying is like when kids are going through this. Actually, I had this will tie in with this. I had a conversation with a gentleman the other night that I've been training his son for a long time. So where do you think my son should be playing this year? And he's a late birthday, good hockey player, not super good hockey player, works hard, getting there, right? And late birthday, he's a year younger, like December 28th, I think it is. He's a year younger than the same age as January 1st guy, really. So he's a year younger. So there's a gap. And he has all these gaps. So he's considered a late bloomer, but not really. But my point to him was like, and he was actually just listening. And I said, just stick with it. I see too many guys. Like I look at Logan, like I've said this before, Arbor Jacki, never drafted. Logan Morrison, never drafted. Ty Karche, never drafted. They're all signed overage years. Stick with it because at the end of the day, the draft makes the media happy. It's a nice article about this, about some dork sitting there and watch 5 games or listens to people or he watches a whole bunch of games. He doesn't know a thing about hockey, sitting in his basement writing about Eric Palazzolo is a good power forward, but I see gaps in his whatever the shit is. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. NHL scouts have a clue, but you got all the media stuff talking because it sells and it gets people talking. But at the end of the day, it makes them happy. It feels good for a kid's ego to get put in that article or to get talked about. But at the end of the day, 18 to 25, a lot of shit changes. And that's why there's so many mistakes and guys that were like really high picks that don't pan out. And a guy like, Barclay Goodrow, who plays for the Rangers, is on, probably his 8th year in the NHL, and he's making really good money, and he was never drafted.
Yeah,
like
for sure,
it's and they learn how to work, and they get a burr up their ass, and they say, you know what, you're going to recognize me at some point. What's his name? Brasso, that was in Boston. Is that his last name? I think it was Brasso. I don't know. Big 6 foot, whatever. He finally grew into his feet, right? It's so yeah, the first round picks like so there's 32 picks. So yeah, there's a good percentage that are going to play at least a game or two, and then after that, the second rounders, whatever. But then after that, what makes the difference in the whole world? You can only pick 210 people, I think it is, in the draft. The whole world, like what makes the 211th guy not good enough to get drafted? Exactly. And what makes him that much better than, or the 150th or the 100th guy better than like it's needs and all that stuff. And there's a lot of stuff. So like, that's my biggest thing with kids is like, don't get hung up on where you are today. Like we talk about it all the time. Don't get hung up on where you are today. Have a goal. As crazy as the goal might seem as a parent or as a kid, have a goal. Have a long term, have a kind of short term. You want to get to a certain level. If you don't, you just keep trying. And just stick to it and get better at 1% here and a 1% here and a 1% here. And the next thing you know, you're 20% better. Yeah. That was only 3, but right. And then 20% better, and then do it again. And you're a hell of a player.
Yeah. I want to make sure I included that before I finish, because it kind of ties into that. Everyone's like looking forward to those highlight moments, whether it's the OHL draft, the NHL draft, get better earlier, make sure you're better sooner and all this stuff. And then third biggest percentage is undrafted players. So if you're drafted 3rd to 7th round in the NHL, you're more likely to play if you weren't drafted. It's like, that's super interesting, man. That's super interesting thing to know. And so
it's super interesting.
So I think I want to tee that up. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this and a couple other things with that Hockey Canada thing.
I love talking about that.
Yeah. I think next week we'll talk a little bit more about that, because there was that, and then a couple other pieces that were interesting that I pulled out of some of those conversations.
Well, we were talking about a kid. We were talking about a kid the other day, how he was just basically put in a situation this year where he went from getting some ice the year before to having it all. And it was just, there was a circumstance. I don't want to say it too clearly. There was a circumstance because a player didn't come back where he would have been a second line player for sure, 1,000%, because one guy played the NHL. So he got not automatic, but it's okay. While we're waiting, we'll put him in as a first liner. So the first liner got ice, power play, PK. It was all situations. Had a fantastic year, and
no shit.
Exactly. But so the point is, I'm not taking anything away from the how good of a player he is, but would he be that good of a player in the media's eyes and stuff like that if he wasn't on the ice quite as much, and then the other guy came back and he got second fiddle? So my point to that is, that's the media, that's the hype, that's the right now. But if the circumstances were just a little bit different, would it be that? So like, what's the projection in 5 years? So it doesn't mean that if he was a second line player this year and didn't get all the ice, that he wouldn't be what he's going to be in 5 years. But right now, it was everything came, there you go, here's your time. Whereas there's going to be another guy, maybe same line, same team, different team, same player, whatever, that might be on the third line. And it's not that he's a worse player, it's just the way that team is built, he's just not there yet. So is he worse or better? At 18 or 17, at this particular time, this one's better. But at this time, who will be? That's how you got to look at it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm going to, because
I can do this shit forever.
Yeah, we got to shut it off. But for next week, I want to we'll revisit this and talk about a couple other things with this too, because like just so many different interesting threads we could go on. And it's cool hearing it from, I texted this to you on the weekend too. I was just like, they're saying the same shit we say, and they're giving me the stats because they're the ones doing the data on it. They're the ones getting the intel about the players and what they're seeing and what they lack, what they don't lack, and these different things. So it's really interesting getting those perspectives. And then we got all these different threads.
Well, to end that, went to 2 Memorial Cup games over the week, right? So across the border, a friend of mine that one of the managers was saying, got me some tickets for me and my kid and my wife. Went over there, I watched 2 games. I said, and we looked at each other. It's like, I don't know if there's a hit. Like in the OHL games that we watch, because like Guelph has a pretty abrasive team. There's finishing hits and stuff like that. Ryan McGuire, who hits everything. But to watch 2 games where it was like, where are the hits? And it's like almost like avoiding them. I'm like, wow. So like if you do get someone that stands out there and hits 4 guys in a period, you go, that stands out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
End of the day here?
Yeah, end of the day. Yeah. So we're going to pick that up next week because that's a good talk.
God,
I'm itching to keep talking about it now, but I got to shut it off. So, okay, that's all. See you guys next week.